Good morning and welcome back to All That to Say.
Wait, what if it's not morning?
Well, good day to you and welcome back to All That to Say.
That's right. All right. Pilot podcast. Here we are.
I'm excited.
Yeah, no, this is going to be great. So I was thinking we've been doing ministry together for a long time. We've been doing a lot of stuff for a long time. So I've had this burning question inside of me. One night, we did an overnight youth thing, and you were like in the middle of the night. It was dark. A bunch of kids are all over the place, right? And you're like, let's do the wall.
Yeah.
And everybody like jumped up, and I was like, okay, what are we doing? And you're like, you kind of explained the instructions, and it was just mass chaos. And bodies were flying all over the place. And ever since then, I'm just like, okay, it was fun, but why? And where the heck did that come from? I mean, I've seen a lot of games over the years. I was like, that was as made up, or you brought it from somewhere.
Yeah, no, the wall definitely has its roots in like the hardcore scene or the scene, I guess maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard of it. I've never been a part of it.
It's like
no clue.
It's like kind of like an adult version of Red Rover, where it gets like really impactful and like you're running at each other and just the whole goal is to hurt each other. I feel like
I took that. I was like, I don't know. I mean, while I was taking part in hurting people, I'm like, I don't know if this is the best game to be playing at a youth event, but I'm not going to stop it. Like, I'm not going to say, hey, we should stop. I'm going to go all out. And but I left there just thinking, I don't know that I ever want to play that game again.
It's not a game even. It's not even like a game. It's just like one of those things where you just do it, and people get hurt, and then they're like, "Oh, that was so much fun."
Well, okay, so I'm glad you said it that way because like I kept thinking it was a game, but there was no like winner. I guess winner was you didn't get hurt or you survived.
Yeah, I think if you just walk away.
Okay.
It's kind of like Moshpits in a way. Like, have you ever been a part of a mosh pit?
No, never. No, I've watched and I've had to break apart mosh pits and worship times.
Worship mosh pits, yeah.
Yes. And
those get crazy.
Terrible idea. So
I've been a part of a live mosh pit at a hardcore scene and got hit in the face with an elbow.
Okay. Because that's where the people are like.
They're swinging their arms,
or they're
and
doing
like,
that whole like windmill thing.
The windmill.
Yeah, where they're that's what it looks like. You just got these two arms. There's like,
and people are like, "What are they doing?"
Yeah.
Like if you just walked in on a mosh pit and you didn't know what was going on, you'd be so confused.
I was confused. Other than I just like.
I'm confused, and I've been part of one actually.
Yeah. I you know, I gotta be careful what I say. I put my opinions out there too much. The first time I saw it, I was like, they're possessed by demons right now. That's what full possession looks like.
It's almost like like when football players like have this like big like when they get up together, like they're like jumping up and down and like that hype thing.
Yes.
I feel like that's what mosh pits are, but it's a little more physical.
We had helmets on.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It's a little more physical and like I feel like it's just like a cohesive like hype and energy around mosh pits. I guess we're talking about mosh pits and scene things.
Well, yeah, but I love that
things.
you reminded me of football days, and I remember having some guy. There was this dude was like insane. I was a sophomore at the time, and he was graduating, and he had moved here. He'd already had a full ride scholarship at like a D1 school.
Okay.
And he came.
And he moved to Brown County.
He literally moved to Brown County so he wouldn't get hurt. He just focused on weights, playing the game. He was a monster, middle linebacker, right?
Okay.
And this one play, little popcorn pass, I come across the middle. And my quarterback kind of, left it out there for me to get to. And I got to it, but he hit me so hard that I was like, I'll never catch a pass again if you put it in the middle like that. That's what I said to him. I got back to huddle. But he picked me up, and he took my helmet. He was like, bah, bah, bah. He was just pounding his head against my head. And
you guys were teammates?
Yeah.
I guess it was a hype thing.
It was a hype thing for him, and he was trying to hype me up. my head hurt so bad I could barely practice the rest of the time.
That's what it feels like to be in a mosh pit.
Yeah, and that's why. And so when I see that, that's like I hadn't thought about it. But I was like, okay, I guess everybody kind of does their thing in the way that they do it, but it still seems weird. So
No, I think mosh pits are 100% so weird. Like just the way people move their bodies in mosh pits too,
right,
or just in the hardcore scene, like the dances or
right,
whatever they're doing, is just so odd.
yeah,
And it's almost creepy. Like you could definitely think like if you walked in, you'd be like, oh yeah, that person could be possessed by a demon,
right.
And
or they're evil.
or they're just evil.
Yeah.
But I guess everybody dances certain ways. Like I wouldn't judge your dancing.
No,
Because
you shouldn't.
and you shouldn't dance. Judge.
No,
I'm
no.
a terrible dancer,
No. So, but so here's an interesting thing though. The need to like for the violence or to bring harm or injure someone, is that trauma and stuff that's inside coming out where they've had like their own stuff, their own pain, like they have their own pain inside that they're trying to get out. We all have that, right?
Right.
We have trauma, dysfunction, and disappointments in our life, and so we have these moments where things come out of us. So, I mean, is it some of that?
Yeah, it could be. I think that I've been parts of different like I would say mosh pits, like different styles of mosh pits almost. Like where there's some like you like if someone falls down, like there people are like gonna help you up sometimes. Like there's certain like I feel like it's different between like I almost feel like there's difference between like who's playing and what band's playing.
Okay.
But
all right.
that could be like the spiritual orientation behind the band.
Okay.
I mean, like I went to an O Sleeper concert, which is
I love O Sleeper.
I love O Sleeper.
Yeah.
And it was more of a like a hype jump around and like
jump into each other.
Yeah, jumping into each other's not as much of like the punching and the hitting and elbows throwing.
Yeah.
But then I've been to like other concerts where I was like not trying to be a part of the mosh pit, but got pulled into it.
Yeah. Right.
And got an elbow to the face.
Were you like keep going, or were you like I need to move out of this?
No, I 100% left. Yeah. I went to the back of the room, and I was like up by the front of the stage, like 10 feet from the stage, and I was like, yeah, I got hit in that face, and I was like, hey man, I gotta go. Like I need a drink of water and an ice pack.
Which is crazy. I need water and an ice pack, which is crazy because like where you were is where people want to be,
right? In
order to like see the concert, see the artist, like be a whole part of that process, and anyway, I have never been a part of it. I've never been. It just all right. That's the question. It wasn't a game you made up. It came from something.
Yeah.
And
the wall of death.
I think is wall of death.
I think is what it's called.
Yeah. And I kind of remember you saying that.
Yeah, the wall of death.
I remember you saying that. I remember you saying the wall. Yeah. Okay. Anyway. All right. Well, I didn't necessarily mean to open up with that on our first podcast, our initial flight here.
Yeah, it's all right.
But it's something I was like, in all these years, I mean, this is kind of like a new
this
adventure
is like
for us.
10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
No, this probably farther back.
Well, at least that much, right? Just based on we were.
You've had this question for 10 years.
I have. I've had this question.
Asked
and
me
I've
that.
never taken the time till I knew we were doing this, and I was like, I'm going to ask him about that because it just is always wondered. So anyway, there you go. Hey, if you're watching, now you know.
Now you kind of know.
Actually, you kind of know. Actually, I'd be curious how many people have actually been in those scenarios in the scene where they've been a part of those mosh pits.
Part of the mosh pits.
And, and like which one did they prefer? Did they prefer the O Sleeper style, or did they prefer the full on?
Yeah, the full on like take your head off. Like I'm here to hurt somebody.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's my opening question.
That's your opening question.
Yeah. So that's it. What's burning in you, man?
Man, I wish you wouldn't have put me on the spot. My opening question for today, I don't have something that's really, really, truly burning in my heart. But we both like music.
Absolutely.
I would say my question for the day is, give me some artists that right now you're like so impressed with their style and things they're putting out. And you said you love Oh Sleeper, but you listen to everything. We listen to
do.
everything. We
Yeah,
listen to like both
yeah.
of us. I mean, I was just jamming out to Britney Spears, and then I walked into your house and you were singing old school 90s Britney Spears, and I was like, what the heck?
Before I answer that question, funny thing last night, there is some things I don't listen to, and like usually it doesn't involve the E symbol on it, explicit language.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right.
Okay,
And
I was like,
so,
what's E?
So
like
last
electronic?
night, I'm doing this like serious word study with a passage from the Bible with the kids in youth ministry, right?
Right.
And it's like super serious, and I'm digging deep, I'm not preaching, I'm showing them how to like dig into the word. I have them Googling stuff, Greek words, and my phone, I don't know what it is with my watch, but it always, Siri needs to interrupt everything that we're doing all the time.
Okay.
Right? And with that, all of a sudden, I hear music, and I'm like, what is that music? And I look at my watch, and I could see, I don't even know who the artist was, but it had a big E on it. And I was like frantically trying to stop the music before it started like dropping the sentence enhancers. But some kid who was new recognized the song.
Oh,
and I was like, I've never heard. I just need you to know, that's not something. That's
and
on
you're
my
like
playlist.
super embarrassed, like because you're like, I'm a pastor,
right. I have no clue how Siri brought that up and started playing it.
Siri overheard you say something.
I don't know what it was.
Piece of something, or overheard a conversation.
Yeah.
Where like, I hate that aspect of Siri.
Siri all the time. I'm sorry, I don't think I understand.
Yeah, I hate that. Well, then don't listen all the time.
I know. Exactly.
That's what also
Yeah.
our technology does today.
Oh,
We'll get into that eventually.
Yeah, we will, definitely. All right, artists that I'm super impressed with. Okay, maybe this is a little different from the question. So on TikTok,
Okay.
there's a group of young people, they're teenagers, and they do cover stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're killing it. Like, I'm so impressed with, they're doing like, they have nonstop people like suggesting like, hey, do this song, right? And I love watching when they do the old stuff, they have a blast with it. Like, their energy's good, they're having fun, they do a really good job with it. They have some of their own creativity in it, so I know that's like probably not where you thought I was going to go.
No, that's okay. That's one, something.
But it is one of those things where I really enjoy coming across their videos and like they're just posting stuff left and right, and they're just trying to get their name out there, right? And so, not a Christian artist, not anything like that. Gosh, I don't know. I would have to like. Well, listen. There's never a moment where I don't. NF still like is my top.
Yeah. Oh.
Like, I mean, if I can have a playlist, or I can have something going. Like, so what I'll do is I start one song, right? I just have one song, and I let it go wherever it's going to go from there.
I often start my listening sessions like that, where I'll just start with something in a theme or like a style,
absolutely,
and let it just play.
Which can be a little dangerous because we have a lot of these Christian hip hop artists, that are Christian, right? They have like big name artists that'll feature on there, and it's someone who has maybe more explicit language. Their art out there is a little more of that vein. And so every now and then, all of a sudden, a song will pop up and like drops, and I'm like, whoa, because I've got my AirPods in, so I'm it's like, okay, no one's hearing that, but I'm like trying to figure out like, so it's a little dangerous to do that sometimes. But if NF comes on, every time I'm like, still solid. There was something.
This is a sad just interjection.
Yep.
So we play Fortnite a lot.
Yep.
Together.
Yep.
And every now and then, when you're driving in the cars, NF will come on.
Yes.
And I will leave the radio on when I'm in
Yes.
the car in Fortnite.
Yes.
If an NF song's on, if it's
Pretty much the only time.
most of the time I turn it off.
Yeah.
Instantly
No,
because I want to hear stuff
exactly
around me. But
Yes.
like if an NF song's on,
Yeah.
or lately it's been Metallica a lot because I'm just like
it is Metallica a lot.
I'm like
yeah.
I'm a old I like old school Metallica, not the
absolutely.
new stuff. But
yeah, absolutely. So, gosh, man, Nick, that is a hard question. I'm thinking about it. Tell me some of yours? Tell me what your.
I mean,
because we may be the same.
NF's. I would 100% agree with you. NF's. I feel like everything he drops is good, and I don't like ever think that I've ever heard a song that by NF that I was like, I hate that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Bar none.
I think that they're like some secular artists that like I'm like, man, I wish you were, wish you were, because they're so good. I actually just listened to a Gyra remix by Justin Bieber.
Really?
Gyra with Chandler Moore.
Yeah,
the other
absolutely,
day.
yeah,
It was Chandler Moore and Justin Bieber, and he did Gyra and How He Loves.
Yes.
And I was blown away.
Yes.
And I was like, this is incredible.
Bieber is a believer.
Yeah.
But now there's a lot of artists that are believers, but they're not in the Christian
scene.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not producing music like that. So with that, Kanye went hardcore, right, and started putting albums together, producing albums, and they were pretty solid. There was some pretty solid stuff.
And then he took a hard swing back
the other way. Yes, yeah. Well, but I think that where I was going with that is that like when you have an artist that's in one kind of genre and they swing over. I mean, Snoop Dogg put a gospel album out.
Snoop Dogg also released a kids album, so I don't know if we can really bring him into a.
No, but I think that like when you have an artist that kind of crosses over like that, it's hard for them to kind of like stay in that lane, right? Where we have artists where like NF is one of the few that's like doesn't hold back from his belief, but also it isn't his. He doesn't take the Christian label.
But he's also not just like dropping bombs every song, or not, I think you hit something like that. There's artists that can produce something that's not necessarily Christian in label,
right,
but still isn't garbage.
100%. And I think that's one of the things I love about NF so much is because when you go to a concert, and we've been to a lot of his concerts, like there's people there that you can tell like they do not know who Jesus is in any way, shape, or form, outside of just they've heard about it or they've heard bad stuff, and yet they love his music, and I think that is just incredible. So, yeah, all right, you were going down a list though.
I was just going with NF, but
I
will say that and this is going to be controversial a little bit. I love not really controversial at all, because he's a great artist. I mean, I think he's a great artist. Yeah. He has a lot of songs that are out there, and as far as a Christian, I don't know if he's great, but I do like Post Malone.
Okay.
I like his style of music.
Yeah.
And I think it's always got something. But he did just release this album that I'm not impressed with.
What? Why not impressed? What turned?
The style's still similar, but I feel like it's just not.
Does it sound like everything else?
Yeah, and like I feel like he had something like that was so like to him, unique to him.
Yeah.
And then like I feel like he's like kind of moving towards something else.
Yeah.
And it's just like, man, you had this style that was like yours.
Yeah.
And now you're just like kind of falling into the trend.
So it's interesting the way you're saying that. So my granddaughter, where she goes to church, the youth group she's in, they have a youth leader, that is actually has some music out as a hip hop artist.
Okay.
Right. And so she was all excited. She sent it to me, and I listened to it, and it was okay. I was like, yeah, I mean, it was like he had some good bars, and had some good lyrics. Like he had some good words, very solid. But I was like, and it was funny. We had this whole conversation about uniqueness, right? Like, and we were listening to this stuff, and I was like, when Andy Mineo comes on, like you're like,
that's Andy Mineo,
or Lecrae. Like there's these certain artists, right? Or like people may not know, like What Up RG. Like I really like What Up RG. He's like one of
I'm not a fan.
yeah.
Of
So
What Up RG.
that's good. So, but there's something about his style. Like he has a unique style. 1K Few. Like there's several of these ones that are like there's something. So I was explaining her. We were listening to all these different songs, and I said, you see the uniqueness of like how they phrase things, their wording, like things that are kind of signature marks. That's what sets them apart. And I was like,
Right.
your leader, that's cool that he's doing. Like that's an awesome ministry that he's a part of, and he actually, but he sounds like every other kind of
Right.
guy that's trying to make it in.
That's trying to do that style of music.
Exactly.
And I feel like when like artists find their niche,
Yes.
and they stay in that. That's what's impressive about artists.
So I'm curious, what about What Up RG don't you like?
I just don't like his flow.
Okay, you don't like his flow.
Yeah, I don't. I'm just not a fan.
Yeah.
I'm just and that's fine.
No, absolutely.
I've heard a couple songs that I'm like, okay, that's all right.
It's all right. Yeah.
That's all right. It's like if I'm gonna go out of my way to listen to Christian rap, which is not like all the time. Like I'm more of just like a worship person, or like I get in like a dad rock vibe, or like oldies rap vibe. Like
Right.
Like I'm pretty all over the place. But if I get into Christian rap, I'm gonna go to Andy Mineo, NF, Old School Lecrae.
That's funny you said that,
Why?
because a lot of people really didn't like the way that the direction that Lecrae went with stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like on a personal note, like they were like,
Because
man,
he kind of went to like
old Lecrae.
Yeah, like I'm gonna go to old Lecrae, like Don't Waste Your Life and things like that. Like just
Right.
because that's like early Christian life for me.
Yeah.
And like it just brings back that nostalgia
Right.
of like early Christian life. Or like I'm gonna go to there's this guy and I don't know how to say his name. Hervey. Have you heard him?
Holvey?
Holvey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Young guy.
Yeah, new guy.
Yep.
I like him. I like his
See?
style.
That's interesting because I like him, but I'm not like. He's one I would probably go skip.
Yeah,
every now
no,
and then.
I like his style.
But he has something new out. I think there's something new he put out that I really like.
Like he's on that song with Lecrae, and I think it's Andy Mineo, "Celebrate More,"
Yes. Yeah.
and he does the
absolutely.
choruses.
That's a solid song.
And so like that was what like got me into him.
Right.
And then I started going through, and I was like, I actually had heard some of the songs he had put out before,
Right.
and I just didn't recognize him. So I was like,
Are there new guys? So you mentioned O Sleeper earlier, and like there was a season when like that music really rose to the top. Was it Tooth Nail Records or Nail Tooth Records?
yes, Tooth and Nail.
Tooth and Nail Records, and then there's some others. But
Mm-hmm.
so, are there new artists doing that genre?
Oh, I'm sure. I just
never listened.
kind of fell out of that.
Yeah.
Because I became an adult and I left all my teen angst behind.
You just offended the three people that are probably watching this right now. No,
Yeah.
I'm kidding, but it's funny though. You said I became.
No,
I
I
still
still
like it.
I still love it. Actually, I introduced it to Jasmine
Yeah.
the other day
Yeah, and
introduced her to O Sleeper, and she was like, "This is okay," and I was like,
Yeah.
"This is great.
no,
You're wrong."
I did like Go Sleep. I'm trying to think of some of the
Devil
others.
Wears
though.
Prada.
Devil Wears Prada was good.
Devil Wears Prada was like a staple growing up, and then like
yes.
they hit Dead Throne, and I was like, "I'm done,"
Yeah.
because just the musically, it was like I was like so unimpressed.
Right.
And
There
then they
was-
came back and they had like some great albums after that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think. Didn't they just put some? I'm trying to think.
They did.
Who was the? There was another big one that. Yeah, it escapes me. Anyway, I don't know. Doesn't matter. All right.
Any other artist that's really impressing you right now? Let's talk about worship. Let's talk about worship for a second. 'Cause we're
Well,
both
I
pastors
mean, yeah. There's I'm gonna have to open up my phone to look at something because I can't think. There's a new album out that I really like, that I've been enjoying a lot, and I cannot think of who it is. All right, I gotta look.
I'll just while you're looking.
Yeah, you do it.
I'm constantly impressed with Brandon Lake.
Never fails.
Never fails. I mean, and I know that's probably like everybody is like, yeah, Brandon Lake's great, but I'm always like, every time I've seen him live twice, I listened to all of his stuff, and I'm like, for one, your voice is ridiculous, dude. As a
Yep.
worship leader,
Yep.
I'm like, your voice is ridiculous. Secondly, the things you're writing are so like too true to you
Yeah.
and like his style.
Absolutely. 100%.
So
Yeah. No, I agree with that. The elevation worship. Here's my thing: is I feel like that there was a time when you would get an album and like the whole album was solid,
right.
right? And I feel like I'm seeing more and more where it's like, that was pretty good. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there was a couple really good. So Belonging Company,
Mm-hmm.
that they have been pretty solid in my book lately. Elevation Rhythm, which is
The youth.
the youth. I I like that whole new album, and it's probably because I'm more youth minded in things, and I love the catchiness of it and the audience that they're speaking to and that they're connecting with, and but I think Belonging Co. has probably been, it's at the top of my list right now, where I kind of keep going back to their stuff. Oops. I keep going back to their stuff because it's pretty solid. Red Rocks Worship is another one of my favorites.
I was gonna say, like, Red
Yeah.
Rocks worship has been something that I've been like getting more and more into,
Yeah.
because I'm just like, every time I listen to him, I'm like, oh, that's good.
Yeah. And I think that like songs or albums have to grow on me a little bit. I will listen to something and then be like, all right, I'm not going to make any judgment off of that because I didn't connect with the song. I didn't connect with part of it, or something happened, or I was distracted, or, sometimes when I'm working out, like I'm counting, I'm keeping track of reps. I get distracted. Well, not distracted. I end up in a conversation with someone.
Right.
And so I'm not necessarily listening. And there's been these other times, there's been times like where we'll share music, right? And it's like an album could have been out for a while, but all of a sudden it like really, like the words
Clicked
that they
with
were
you.
saying really clicked with me. I really connected with where they were at. And it was like, all right, that was really solid. That was a really, really good album. And then other times it's just like, I hate to say it this way, but I mean, like, all music is good, and like anything you're singing to the Lord is good. But I think sometimes it's like it sounds just like every
That's been
other
done
song.
before.
Yeah, it's same four chords,
Yeah.
and a little change in the bridge. It sounded like this before, and that's not a negative. I mean that in no judgment in any way, shape, or form. Because at the end of the day, they're artists and they're putting their stuff out there, and they're writing.
Yeah.
They're writing, and they're trying to write their hearts or what they're experiencing or what they're encountering on a day-to-day basis, and trying to keep things fresh. I think that's one of the things I do appreciate. We get into this. I feel like sometimes the church gets in this controversy about hymns versus contemporary Christian music.
Right.
Right? Oh, hymns. I think that like to get locked into where that's the only thing that you're doing. I mean, Scripture says sing a new song,
Yeah.
right? So, like, it's almost unscriptural if you're not constantly letting new things come out of you. Even if not everybody connects with it, you as an artist or you as a worshiper, you as a worship leader, it connected with you. It meant something to you. It was in your moment, and it's important. And
Right.
God loves it.
Yeah.
Right. So,
And I think that, like, you look at like the progression of music too, like people who like just started in church in the 90s, Chris Tomlin is their hymns.
100%.
Like, that's their hymns.
Matt Redman.
Matt Redman, like those artists.
David Crowder.
Come on.
Yeah. I mean, and so it's funny because How He Loves, that song, is still being played today, and still people are like, oh, it's so good.
Which was originally done by John Mark McMillan.
Yes, exactly. But, I mean, it's just an old, but anyway, yes, you're right. Chris Tomlin.
But those people that like joined the church in the 90s, that's their hymns, that's their older music.
Absolutely.
Yep. So to speak. And then they're like, then you listen to like old hymns like It Is Well, even like Bethel just redid it a couple years ago. 10 years ago.
I was gonna say, I bet it's been longer than
10
that.
years ago.
It goes by really quick.
Yeah. So it was like Bethel just redid it 10 years ago or whatever. So like even that is like no longer like when I think It Is Well, I think of that, not the old.
Exactly. Well, and I probably think of both at the same time. It's interesting you bring that song up because that's probably the one song that most people have been like very accepting of, like, that's the new hymn.
That's the new hymn.
That's the new hymn.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
I that's the only new hymn that
Right.
I've listened to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That I was like, oh yeah, I like that.
Yeah. I think it's funny that, like, as an overarching church, like some that are very like staunch are like,
What are some?
I'm okay with that.
What are some hymns that like? Well, like I think of like Amazing Grace, like My Chains Are Gone by Chris
Yes.
Tomlin.
Yes. Yep.
Like
Yep.
who redid just the Amazing Grace.
Right.
Right.
Which was pretty well accepted.
Which is pretty.
Not fully accepted, but pretty well accepted.
Yeah, but I think you go to like a majority of churches and they'd be like, oh yeah, that's fine.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's like a okay crossover.
What do you think was the first hymn you ever heard where you were like, oh, that's what the hymns they talk
Well, I
about?
remember my first hymn is Old Rugged Cross.
Oh, yeah, that's
Cling
classic.
to.
Right? Yeah. I mean, that is a solid song. Come on.
And
That's
I'm
a good
like,
one.
I was like, I remember the first time I heard that hymn, and I was like, this is Christian music. I was like 10, and I was like,
Really?
I don't like this.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you feel about it today?
Still don't like
Still
Old
don't
Rugged
like it?
Cross. I'm
Really?
gonna get hate for that, but
No hate. Everybody has an opinion. I think everybody likes different songs. So, see, I have a connection to it because it was kind of like that was one of the first songs I was introduced to as becoming saved. I got saved. This is how old it sounds, right? Someone handed me a cassette tape.
Sorry.
Jimmy Swaggart cassette tape, and I was like, it was like literally pretty much the only option there was. It was either that or Michael W. Smith.
yeah.
And oh shoot, what's her name? I can't remember her name now. I mean, there was very few people, right? I mean, other than like the Gaithers, and like you had these Russ
Like
Taff,
gospel
you
bands.
had these like, yeah, Carmen. If anybody watches this and remembers who Carmen is, go get him. He was hilarious. But anyway, all that to say, like, I listened to it over and over, and that the Old Rugged Cross was one of those ones. There was a couple others that like where I'm still very connected to on a personal level. But when you
How
say
Great
that,
Thou Art.
How Great Thou Art.
I didn't even think about that one.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot out there, I think, that I don't even think about or I don't take. Yeah, I don't necessarily hold on to it till I hear it. So the song for me would be "Trade My Sorrows." Is the one that I will always go back to, and like we had fun with the youth with it. Someone in my family got saved, and that was the song we were playing, and so like I always remember just them saying yes to Jesus at that moment, and like it just like lit something inside of me. Like, I mean, it was like I knowing that they had said yes was like, boom, let's go, and dancing and having fun, and just like it was like one of those first songs that really like released me to be able to like move around and have fun, and you know, even if we did make up some moves to it, it was still fun. So
Yeah.
you know,
So I'll throw this one out, and we're running out of time.
Yep.
But the song that I got saved to,
okay.
"Our God" by Chris Tomlin.
Ooh, really
Solid song.
solid song.
And
yes.
I kind of forgot about it till the other day when I
Okay.
heard it. Somehow it
Yeah.
ended up on my playlist, or like when I started a random like thread of
yeah,
songs,
just let something go.
and it played, and I was like, wow,
That was a long time ago.
yeah. I was 16,
I forgot about that song.
and I was like, man, this is a great song. I forgot. I might have to bring this back. This is gonna be a throwback.
I don't want to take us too far down the thing, but do you have songs that have multiple connecting points to random things? Like, I'll give you an example. You say Chris Tomlin, I think the word Lamelin. Okay. So Chris Tomlin, when they first got started, traveled with, and they still do, it's Passion, and they traveled with Louis Giglio. And I remember his preaching the message one time, and it was about Lamelin, which is this thing in your body that's in the shape of a cross.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when you say Chris Tomlin, I hear Lamelin.
Chris
Chris
Lamelin.
Tomlin. Yeah, I do. I move those together. Like that in my image, in my head, you say Chris Tomlin.
And you think Louis Giglio.
I think of that whole thing.
Lamelin.
Yeah, and then Matt Redman, because he's isn't he from Europe or something like that? I don't think he's from America, is he?
Yeah, he's from somewhere else.
So I always think about him, and this song that they were in. It was it was like a tribute to America. I mean, it was like calling God in to like restore America, and he was like singing the lead, like he was like the powerhouse behind it. I thought, how crazy is that? He's not American. So I always think about that. I always see him up on that stage. It was called One Day Live.
One Day.
Passion One Day, yeah. And he was leading the charge on that, and I can hear him singing the words, and I was just like, and he started talking, and he's got that like English accent, and I was like, it sounds so weird in the middle of that song.
Yeah.
An Englishman.
It's funny you said that. Just, I think about, like, I listened to the song. There's a song by Jeremy Riddle. It's oh gosh, what is the song called? But basically, there's a part where he does spontaneous, and he's like talking about bringing boldness into the world. But then he specifically calls out the continent of Europe.
Really?
And I was like, okay, weird. But then I looked it up, and he was leading when that was recorded. He was leading in Europe.
Oh, gotcha.
And I was like, what a weird thing to keep in the song, though. Like, I get the spontaneous moment, but like, what a weird thing to record in that, or keep in the recording of like calling boldness into the Christian body in Europe.
He's just keeping it going. He's like, I started, I'm going to just keep it going.
Yeah, but he's like talking about boldness across the world, and then he specifically calls out Europe. And I was like,
Yeah, very interesting. So, all right, well.
all that to say,
when you start a conversation, you never know where it's going to go.
That's true. We started with Moshpits and ended with spontaneous worship.
Absolutely. And declaring England, the English, the UK, y'all need to stand bold, okay? Stand bold.
All right. You guys have a good day.
Yeah, out.